It's game preview time, Broncos country. Week 15, Denver Broncos versus Detroit Lions. The Broncos are looking to head into the Motor City and keep their hopes for the division title alive, although they do need Kansas City to help them out in that regard and lose a couple of games. The Broncos do still have an outside chance to win the division, let alone sneak into the playoffs as a wild card spot. So until that possibility is out of the realm of possibilities, I think that the Denver Broncos are still going to push hard to try to win the division. And if they hope to do that, they have to win this game in Detroit. So let's go ahead and talk about, first of all, how this Detroit Lions offense matches up against the vaunted Denver Broncos defense. And then we'll talk about how the Broncos offense can really help their defense along in this game. I'm not going to lie, guys, I am actually a little bit worried about this matchup. There are some things that Detroit does that I feel like Denver does struggle to defend. And on the other side, I feel like this Broncos offense does on paper match up really well against this Lions defense. But if they're kicking field goals and the Lions are scoring touchdowns, then it ultimately isn't going to matter. The Broncos are going to have to score touchdowns. This may be a game where they are really going to heavily depend on Russell Wilson to carry them. We depended on Russell Wilson to carry them in the Texans game, and he didn't really come through until that final drive, and even then, the Broncos were unable to capitalize. So Russell Wilson is probably going to have to step up in this game, but we'll go ahead and talk about that a little bit more in just a second. But first of all, let's go ahead and dive into how this Denver Broncos defense matches up against the Detroit Lions offense. As we all know, the Denver Broncos have really taken on an identity on defense over these last 7 games as an aggressive defense that is not afraid to blitz. I'm a little bit worried about that in this game, though, because although Jared Goff is the 30th graded quarterback per PFF against the blitz, I feel like their offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, who's one of the brightest offensive minds in the game, is going to know that, and he's going to do whatever he can to counter the blitz. Be it hot routes, be it screens, be it draw plays, all kind of known suspects in order to beat the blitz. I feel like Ben Johnson is going to heavily depend on those in this game because Jared Goff is not a great quarterback when he gets blitzed, and Ben Johnson, I feel like, has done a really good job throughout this season of masking some of Jared Goff's flaws, and I feel like this is one of Goff's biggest flaws. So sure, on paper, this should be a good matchup for the Denver Broncos, but in practice, I feel like Ben Johnson is going to have a plan for it. What if the Broncos do blitz and they just don't quite get home and Jared Goff is able to hit Jameson Williams in stride for a big completion? That's something I'm really worried about. I also feel like the Broncos are going to have to really defend the Lions running backs in the passing game, and I worry that they might look to exploit Alex Singleton. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery are 2 really good running backs as receivers out of the backfield, and I feel like if they were to get one of them matched up on someone like Alex Singleton on like a Texas route or maybe a flat route, that could spell trouble there for the Denver Broncos. So I really feel like the Broncos are going to have to really look to contain the Lions' 2 running backs, David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. But it's not just those 2 guys. They have 4 really good, dependable receivers. They have Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's their number 1 guy. They've got Jameson Williams, former first-round pick. They've got Josh Reynolds, who has really good chemistry with Jared Goff from their time together with the Los Angeles Rams. And they even have former Bronco Khalif Raymond, who can beat you deep. So they've got 4 really great wide receivers. And, oh, not to mention, they've got a really good stud tight end in Sam Laporta out of Iowa. So that could be real trouble for this Denver Broncos secondary. Sure, Pat Surtain and Jaquan McMillan are great, but the Lions really have more weapons than the Broncos could really account for on defense because, again, Alex Singleton can be a liability at times in coverage. So I feel like the Lions could exploit this Denver Broncos defense and put up a lot of points. And if they do that, this Broncos offense is going to have to keep up. Russell Wilson, this could be on you. If you come and look at this Lions defense on paper, they've got really nobody outside of Aiden Hutchinson and maybe Alex Anzalone, who are household names. Tracy Walker, I guess, back in his heyday too. But other than that, man, John Kaminsky, Benito Jones, Levi Onwuzurike, and obviously Aiden Hutchinson on that D-line with Josh Paschal, Isaiah Buggs, Charles Harris, and then the 2 Aquara brothers as depth. I mean, that's not a really vaunted defensive line. The Broncos, in theory, should be able to run on this team, and that's what I'm hoping they're going to be able to do. But if the Lions say, stack the box and play single high coverage, then they may have to lean on Russell Wilson to exploit this Lions defense through the passing game. And you look at their secondary, Cam Sutton, their free agent signee from Pittsburgh, has kind of disappointed. They've got Jerry Jacobs on the other side, who's kind of struggled as well. Kirby Joseph, who's pretty strong as a rookie safety, and then Tracy Walker as well, who was really good back in his heyday, not so much now. And then Brian Branch as the nickel. This Lions secondary isn't really all that vaunted. So in theory, the Broncos offense should be able to go out there and do almost whatever they want. But if they're playing from behind because this Lions offense is exploiting the Broncos defense, then the Broncos could be in a little bit of trouble here. So it is for that reason I am unfortunately going to pick the Detroit Lions to win this game. It's a matchup where it's a student versus teacher matchup. Obviously, Dan Campbell was an assistant in New Orleans for all those years under Sean Payton, and Sean Payton has said that the Broncos are really trying to emulate what the Lions are doing in their rebuild, and I feel like the Broncos are actually a little bit further along at this point than the Lions were in this point in their rebuild. So I actually feel like the Broncos are on the right track, but in terms of this game, the Lions really need this win. The Broncos, they can in theory afford to lose this game, so I do think the Broncos are going to probably end up losing this game. I think that the Lions are better matched up here, so I do have the Detroit Lions winning this game 31-24, but I could also very easily see this game flip the other way and the Denver Broncos pick up a win and keep up their chances for the division title for the AFC West. All right, Broncos country, I'm curious about your thoughts on the overall theme for this game as well as your score prediction. Drop those comments down below, guys. I would love to hear your thoughts as always. Be sure to leave a like on this video as well as subscribe and ring the bell so these videos appear in your notification feed. I would really appreciate it, guys. Those are two free and easy ways to show your support. Helps tell YouTube's algorithm to push us out and helps us get seen by more and more members of Broncos country just like you and me. And until next time, guys, I'm your host, Gage Madrid, saying peace out.